The conference room felt as icy as a winter dawn in Montana, the kind of chill that creeps under your skin. Tate Winslow sat back in his chair, hands clasped confidently behind his head, as if his words held the key to success. "This isn't about personal feelings, Bryn," he said, his voice dripping with unearned wisdom. "Finance is a pressure cooker, and Jackson's the obvious choice for this role." Across the gleaming table, Bryn Alder felt the frustration churn within her. She meticulously prepared the spreadsheet that lay before them, hours of her life expressed in cells and figures. It took every ounce of restraint not to crumple the papers and hurl them across the room. Instead, she met Tate's gaze with calm defiance. "Tate," she began firmly, "I've been steering multi-million-dollar portfolios for over 6 years, with our firm's performance consistently ranking in the top 5 in the Southeast region." Tate raised a dismissive hand, silencing her prowess. "I'm sure you're exceptional at what you do for the firm, but this is family business. We need someone who can specifically focus on our goals, and Jackson understands what's really on the line." Beside him, Jackson, the image of youthful entitlement, sat smirking like he'd just struck gold. At just 24, newly minted from business school, he had yet to grapple with the practicalities of personal finance. But being Tate's blood, not to mention Bryn's stepbrother, apparently endowed him with financial brilliance in Tate's eyes. Bryn turned to Jackson, irritation bubbling just beneath her composed surface. "Jackson, what's your strategy for managing this portfolio?" she inquired, her voice betraying none of her skepticism. Caught off guard, Jackson faltered, I thought I'd start with some high-growth tech stocks, ride the wave." Tate nodded approvingly, as if the young man's inexperience was a badge of audacious genius. "Exactly, bold strokes," Tate declared. "That's what this portfolio needs." Bryn felt a familiar knot of frustration tighten in her stomach at their so-called strategy. Here she was, with a decade under her belt of dissecting risk from reward, engineering balanced portfolios, and tracking market trends meticulously. Yet, her expertise was being overshadowed just because she didn't fit the mold they valued, a woman in finance. Bryn reflected on her journey, how she'd clawed her way to recognition in an industry that often saw her as an outsider. But this was different. The sting wasn't from a colleague's dismissive remark, but from her own stepfather, casting her abilities aside in favor of Jackson, his biological son. Bryn remembered joining Tate's family at 12 after her mom remarried. Tate had always been a strict but ostensibly fair figure in her life, distributing his attention evenly between his biological and stepchildren until more recently, that fairness waned, growing into a palpable bias. The family's financial portfolio was not just a collection of investments, but a tapestry of hard work aimed at securing their shared future. Bryn had meticulously crafted a plan to unlock potential returns while minimizing risk. Yet, clarity in numbers seemed meaningless against Tate's ingrained prejudices. Driving home, Bryn's frustration simmered under the surface. "It's not personal," Tate had said, but it cut to the core of who she was and what she stood for. Bryn had spent her professional life proving herself in a male-dominated sphere only to find her own family dismissing her expertise. Upon stepping into her bustling kitchen, she found solace in Ronan, her husband. He looked up from his task, the warmth in his eyes offering a temporary balm. "How did it go?" he asked, hope threaded through his words. "It was a train wreck," Bryn replied, setting her bag down on the counter as though it carried the day's disappointments. Tate handed the portfolio to Jackson. "Apparently, women like me aren't cut out for finance." Ronan frowned, shaking his head as he set aside the chopping knife. "He actually said that?" Bryn nodded, the familiar weight of unfairness pressing down on her. And Jackson grinned like he'd just hit the jackpot. Ronan sighed, disbelief coloring his words. "That's absurd. You've been navigating this landscape for years. Jackson probably can't even decipher a balance sheet." Bryn nodded, fury still bubbling beneath the surface. But none of that seems to matter to them. In Tate's eyes, I'm the risky choice, while Jackson's the golden ticket. That night, as Bryn lay in bed, staring into the darkness, clarity dawned with the quiet resolve of the rising sun. She wouldn't expend another drop of energy confronting Tate's prejudices. Instead, she would let her track record and achievements stand testament to her proficiency and dedication. Her focus turned anew toward letting her work speak volumes, knowing it was a language of success that anyone willing to listen could understand. Bryn Alder gazed out the window of her bustling office, watching the city pulse beneath the evening sky. Her career was on an upward trajectory, and she was already negotiating the lead position for a high-stakes project that could catapult her team into the industry spotlight. If Tate wanted to see Jackson as some kind of financial whiz, that was his prerogative. Yet Bryn felt an unwavering certainty that when the dust eventually settled, it would be her achievements standing undiminished amid Jackson's overinflated ego. Determined to let them navigate their own storm, Bryn resolved with steadfast assurance to let her results speak volumes when the truth finally emerged. Weeks turned into months, pushing the memory of the portfolio discussion into the recesses of Bryn's mind. Yet it lingered like an unwelcome shadow. Each time Jackson posted another exuberant, winning big in finance, update on social media, or Tate casually mentioned Jackson's ambitious prospects, Bryn's emotions simmered anew. She focused intently on her own challenges, dedicating all her energies to the high-profile client portfolio she had been entrusted with at her firm. The task demanded innovation, precision, and relentless dedication. Late nights blurred into early mornings as Bryn immersed herself in trend analysis and strategic projections. The work was demanding, but immensely rewarding. One late evening, her colleague and mentor, Kira Voss, approached her desk, leaning back with a relaxed curiosity. "Bryn, I've noticed the extra mile you're going. You're all in on this one, aren't you?" Bryn nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. "It's more than work. It feels personal," she confessed, feeling the weight behind her words. Kira raised an inquisitive eyebrow. "The client?" "No," Bryn said, shaking her head, bitterness tinging her voice. "It's my stepfather. He passed me over for the family portfolio, favored my stepbrother instead, claiming women aren't suited for finance." Kira's eyes widened. "He really said that?" Bryn exhaled, the words heavy with a mix of frustration and resolve. "Oh, he certainly did. Which is why I'm committing to showing him just how wrong he is." At family gatherings, Jackson's reputed success started to unravel. Tate, who once proudly updated the family with tales of Jackson's investment acumen, now offered vague explanations. "It's more of a long-term strategy," he remarked one evening over dinner. Bryn couldn't help but probe, her eyebrows arching. "Long-term strategy? Sounds like code for not showing any returns right now. What exactly is he investing in these days?" Tate bristled, irritation flashing in his eyes. "It's none of your concern, Bryn. Jackson's handling it." Bryn let the conversation drop, but inside she felt an undeniable satisfaction in seeing her predictions play out. With little experience and much overconfidence, Jackson was making all the classic mistakes of an amateur investor. She knew markets' volatility all too well and sensed the inevitable outcome was looming. On the other hand, her endeavors at work were yielding abundant success. The portfolio she managed began exceeding expectations, delighting clients with substantial returns. News of her triumphs spread swiftly, leading to an invitation for her to present her innovative strategy at a prestigious national investment summit. It was the kind of recognition that could elevate her career significantly. Kira was over the moon when Bryn shared the news. "This is your moment," Kira exhorted, brimming with enthusiasm. "Make it count." The night before the conference, Bryn rehearsed her presentation, her reflection in the mirror a portrait of steely determination. Although part of her fantasized about inviting Tate and Jackson to witness her moment of triumph, she resisted. Her focus wasn't on proving anything to them. It was about affirming her place and value within the financial sphere. Over time, the widening gap between Bryn's burgeoning success and Jackson's faltering endeavors became undeniable. Her firm's portfolio continued to flourish, while under Tate's roof, murmurs hinted at Jackson's struggles. Subtle remarks about market instability and unforeseen hurdles peppered family dinners until, one evening, Tate reluctantly came clean as dessert was served. "It's been a challenging quarter," he admitted, his voice heavy with resignation. Jackson's portfolio has taken a few hits. Bryn kept her expression neutral as she calmly lifted her gaze from the dessert. "Hits? What kind of setbacks are you talking about?" Tate hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the candidness. "Nothing catastrophic," he assured quickly. "Just a few setbacks." Finally breaking his silence, Jackson's voice carried a rare note of humility. "It's been a tough market," he conceded, signaling the stark lesson that personal and professional fortitude isn't inherited, it is earned. The room was thick with tension, like the moment before a storm breaks as Tate Winslow's defenses crumbled. He insisted, no one seeing major returns in this market, trying to shield his faltering confidence. Bryn Alder, standing before him with unyielding resolve, couldn't hold back the truth any longer, despite her better judgment. "Plenty of portfolios are thriving under the right management," she countered, her voice clear and steady. Silence enveloped the room as Tate's gaze bore into her, a mix of frustration and disbelief simmering just beneath the surface. "Not everyone has the benefit of dealing with institutional clients, Bryn," he retorted sharply, implying the challenge of managing family funds. Bryn merely nodded, swallowing the urge to retort. Let them wallow in their misconceptions. Her accomplishments could speak volumes for her. She had no need to justify herself further. As the year drew to a close, the contrast between Jackson's amateur dealings and Bryn's seasoned expertise became impossible to ignore. Jackson's portfolio sagged under the weight of impulsive, ill-timed decisions. Meanwhile, Bryn's firm basked in the glow of success, their achievements highlighted by several prestigious industry publications. Her prowess earned her the title of one of the top financial analysts in the Great Lakes area. The accolade brought with it an invitation to an illustrious gala where she'd be honored for innovative portfolio management. As Bryn stood on stage, bathed in the spotlight, she thought fleetingly of Tate and Jackson. Their absence was noted, but it wouldn't be long before word of her success crossed their path. Indeed, 2 weeks later, Tate called. His voice was unusually tempered. "Bryn," he began, "I saw your name in the National Finance Journal." "Congratulations." "Thank you," Bryn replied, keeping her tone even. A hesitant pause filled the line. "I underestimated what you've accomplished," Tate confessed at last. "You did," Bryn stated plainly, though a tinge of gratitude edged her words. An unexpected twist came when Bryn received a call from her husband, Ronan. Amusement laced his voice as he recounted, "Bryn, you won't believe it." Tate's glued to the TV. "Finance Network Live just featured your firm live. They mentioned your success, name and all." Bryn froze, holding the phone tight as Ronan's words sunk in. "Really? What did they say?" "They called you one of the top-performing managers in the region," Ronan explained. Tate's been dead silent for 20 minutes. Pride and anticipation welled within Bryn. For months, she'd poured every ounce of her energy into creating a legacy Tate had insisted was unattainable, and now it was displayed on national television. The next morning, Tate's voice reached her with renewed humility. "Bryn," he said, "I saw you on Finance Network Live. I truly didn't realize how well your firm was doing." Her reply lingered momentarily in the air, each word carefully considered. "Thank you. We've been pushing hard for those results." Tate hesitated, clearly struggling with his admission. "I need to admit, maybe I misjudged you. Your results speak volumes." Leaning back in her chair, a mixture of satisfaction and vindication washed over Bryn. "It's not about accolades, Tate," she replied softly. "It's about making informed decisions, a practice I've committed to long before now." Silence stretched between them until Tate finally responded, "Could you come by this weekend? There are things I'd like to discuss." On Saturday, the atmosphere at Tate's home was notably subdued. Greeting her with uncharacteristic humility, Tate invited her into the living room. Jackson was absent, a silence where his presence used to be. Tate tentatively handed Bryn a folder. "Here are the latest figures from our portfolio," he said, his voice low. "I thought it best you take a look." As Bryn skimmed the documents, the losses were more significant than she had anticipated. High-risk investments had backfired, depleting the portfolio drastically, an undeniable contrast to the gains she'd fostered at her firm. Breaking the silence, Tate admitted, Jackson believed it was merely market volatility, but your results suggest otherwise. Bryn chose her words with care. It's never just the market, she explained. Sound portfolio management requires strategic decisions based on expertise and foresight. In the warm glow of the afternoon sun peeking through the window, Bryn Alder sat across from her stepfather, Tate Winslow, in his spacious home office. The conversation was one she hadn't imagined could ever take place. Bryn, Tate began slowly, his voice tinged with regret. I thought giving Jackson control was the right decision. I wanted him to have a chance to prove himself. But I see now that I misjudged everything, especially you. The words, although surreal, were words Bryn had longed to hear. For years, she had persevered through dismissals, her expertise constantly undermined by Tate's bias. Yet here he was now, a mirror of remorse reflecting back at her. I owe you an apology, Tate said quietly, the sincerity in his tone undeniable. I let my prejudices cloud my judgment, and it was wrong. A wave of unexpected emotion washed over Bryn. The vindication she had secretly craved stood right before her, bittersweet and complex. Thank you, she replied at last, pausing to gather her thoughts. But this isn't just about me. It's about the family's future. If we want the portfolio to make a turnaround, serious changes are necessary. Tate nodded, determination etching lines into his face. I'd like you to take charge, if you're willing. For the next hour, Bryn meticulously mapped out her plan. She detailed a strategy to stabilize and eventually revitalize the family portfolio's value. It wouldn't be an easy road, but her confidence was palpable. As she outlined her vision, a subtle yet profound shift appeared in Tate's demeanor, respect, newfound and overdue. Once she finished, Tate leaned back with a weary sigh. Bryn, I can't thank you enough. You didn't have to step in, not after how I treated you. It speaks volumes about your character. A sense of closure filled Bryn, though not as expected. This isn't about making a point, she said firmly. It's about what's right for everyone. In the days after their pivotal meeting, a reassuring calm settled into Bryn's life. The usual cloud of frustration that had hovered whenever she thought of Tate began to dissipate. He recognized her abilities, not only as a financial strategist, but as someone truly deserving of his respect. It wasn't a blanket solution for years of oversight, but it was the commencement of something better. At the next family dinner, conversations about finances lacked their usual tension. Tate even pointedly mentioned the new path Bryn had proposed. Bryn's already steering the portfolio onto a better track, he announced, glancing at her from across the table. I should have trusted her guidance much earlier. Jackson shifted uncomfortably, his gaze avoiding hers. He'd been notably silent since the reins had been transferred from him. Bryn noticed the spark of resentment flickering in his eyes. However, instead of indulging in her urge to savor a moment of triumph, she resisted. This wasn't a matter of rivalry, but one of securing the financial well-being of the entire family. Later that evening, as Bryn helped with the aftermath of dinner, Tate approached her again. I know I've said this before, he began softly, but truly, I am sorry for how dismissive I was. I let my biases lead me astray. Caught off guard by the earnestness in his words, Bryn met his gaze. Thank you, Tate. It means a lot. I'm not holding on to grudges. I just want us to move forward with unity. With his expression notably softer, Tate nodded. You have my complete support from now on. I trust you to lead the way. Each word lifted a weight off Bryn's shoulders. For years, she had strived not just to be seen, but to prove that her capabilities were independent of gender or familial dynamics. Finally, validation had arrived not solely because she had persevered, but because Tate had shifted enough to acknowledge the truth. In the subsequent months, life found a more harmonious rhythm. With Tate's backing, Bryn fully assumed control of the family portfolio. Her mission wasn't just damage control on Jackson's part, but to erect a robust framework capable of withstanding future obstacles. Bryn's strategic acumen transformed into a diverse, resilient approach. Within half a year, the portfolio began to rebound, slow yet steady. And through it all, Tate remained steadfast in his support. As the sky outside shifted from pink to deep indigo, signaling dusk's arrival over Silverton, Bryn Alder sat across from her stepfather in his warmly lit living room. The papers and portfolios spread across the table symbolized not just a year's worth of achievements, but a personal transformation. Tate's demeanor was different now. Gone was the man who once dismissed her capabilities with a wave. The Tate here today was engaged, inquisitive, and, for the first time, genuinely complimentary as he recognized the portfolio's improved returns. The evolution of their relationship was profound, moving beyond mere respect to a genuine trust. Bryn felt a sense of liberation, no longer the overlooked stepdaughter, but a competent professional in her own right. That evening, as they reviewed the latest market performance reports, Tate leaned back, letting out a contemplative sigh. "Bryn," he started, his gaze softened by reflection, "I used to think I could always anticipate what's best. This past year has shown me how wrong I was. Sometimes, it's the people you overlook who truly surprise you." Bryn set the thick report down with a gentle smile playing on her lips. "It's never too late to learn, Tate," she replied, kindness tempering her words. He nodded, a rare smile creasing his face. "You've done more for this family than words can express." Hearing those words sparked a closure Bryn hadn't realized she sought. For years, she was propelled by an unwavering need to prove herself, but now, that drive was fueled by self-worth and self-assurance, independent of external validation. Outside of family dynamics, her career trajectory soared. Success in managing the family's portfolio garnered the attention of influential clients, paving the way for fresh opportunities and challenges. The recognition she had received at the Apex Finance Awards Gala was merely the prologue of her burgeoning career narrative. Bryn was stepping into the professional life she had always envisioned. Within the family, her bond with Tate evolved in unexpected ways. He had become an ally, not just in her professional endeavors, but in recognizing her intrinsic value. The tension that once defined their interactions dissolved, replaced by an understanding that, while it could not rewrite history, it sowed seeds of hope for what lay ahead. The journey had been anything but smooth, yet it imparted an invaluable lesson to Bryn. True worth isn't earned through forcing acknowledgement. Sometimes, the tenacity of continuing to do good work is enough, with achievements standing as silent testaments to perseverance. When recognition finally arrives, its value isn't merely rooted in an apology, but in the quiet knowledge of one's abilities, evident even in the absence of external acknowledgement. Leaving Tate's house that night, Bryn sensed a peace that had eluded her for years. Though the future held its uncertainties, one certainty emerged clear and bright. She had claimed her place, not just within the family circle, but within her own life's tapestry.